Are the dead waiting for us in the cemetery? Do the souls of the dead see or hear those who come to their graves? Are they waiting for us? Many people ask this question, if not aloud, then in their minds. It is no secret that many people come to the cemetery to visit their relatives and talk to them as if they were alive. And many believe that the deceased can hear, but they just can't answer. Yes, a devout person not only believes that the souls of the dead hear us, but also feels it with all his heart. Does it make sense? Is it worth sharing our troubles and joys with our deceased loved ones? The Orthodox Church believes that it is. The deceased listen to every appeal, and not just at the cemetery, the Church says. It can happen at home and in church. It is different when the souls of the dead are in special need of our prayers. We should never forget this. Unfortunately, close relatives do not always keep the graves of the dead in order. And such a neglectful attitude towards the memory of the deceased can be considered a sin. The departed souls care where and how they are buried and whether their resting places are cared. There are cases where the deceased come to their relatives in a dream and ask them to rebury them because a suicide victim is buried nearby. And from the posthumous miracles of Saint Tikhon we learn that he appeared to his nephew and asked him to clean his mother's grave. It pained the saint that his mother's grave was being neglected, and he accused his nephew of allowing it. When his nephew hesitated, the saint appeared a second time and threatened him with punishment if he did not do it. Only then did he come to his senses and put the grave in order, and for the rest of his life he looked after it, remembering the saint's blessing. So how should we behave in the cemetery? And what is pleasant and beneficial to the souls? First of all, the deceased expect us to pray. For prayer is not just words. Prayer is an appeal to God, an appeal to the saints. And we reach another spiritual level of communication, incomprehensible to the human mind. This is the realm of faith. Faith that we are really awaited. They are waiting for a special remembrance, especially for our pious behavior. On Radonitsa you can feel a kind of family cohesion, because on this day the whole family gathers and tells the children about their grandmother, great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother. And this remembrance of the ancestors also has a certain instructive, educational and pedagogical aspect. What to bring to the cemetery? Sometimes people come to the cemetery as if they were going on a picnic, bringing lots of food and preserves. And they often bring alcohol and drink it on the graves. How does the Church view this? The problem of pious behavior in the cemetery has been around for a long time. Centuries ago, the Holy Fathers spoke about it and taught their flock. The Holy Fathers spoke about feasting on graves only in a negative context. You cannot turn a gravestone into a big table with food and songs. First of all, a memorial meal is an alms given to the needy. So the less the relatives eat, the better. It is distributed to those who, every year, do not have the opportunity to eat hot soup or meat, which, unfortunately, they find only in the garbage on ordinary days. Sadly, human sinfulness and filthiness are transferred even to such sacred things as the memory of loved ones. I myself have had to deal with similar cases. On Radonitsa, when I go to the cemetery to pray for the dead, I try to stay there for a short time, because soon people who are quite drunk start asking me to drink for the souls of the dead. Often people put cigarettes on the gravestone because they say the deceased liked to smoke. In my opinion, if the deceased liked to fornicate, are you going to bring him a girl now? When I say this, they get offended. For some reason they are offended. People often pour vodka on the grave, saying that the deceased loved to drink. But if the deceased loved to drink, you should cry about it, water the grave with your tears. After all, he loved to drink, beat his wife and children, and drank away his property. And we pour vodka into his coffin. Understand, we don't know what his afterlife is like. Maybe he is suffering from the fact that he drank that very vodka. Maybe he has already regretted it 3,000 times. And we remind him once again that you, brother, have sinned like this. Under no circumstances should you bring alcohol to the cemetery. Do not turn it into an entertainment. The Church takes a strict view of such things. Therefore, beloved ones of Christ, behave in such a way that your dead will not be ashamed of your behavior, so that you do not dishonor their memory by your behavior. When we talk about commemorating the dead, we are talking about the manifestation of a person's religious feelings. After all, belief in the afterlife is one of the signs of a person's religiosity. If you want to commemorate your ancestors on Radonitsa, not just for a cemetery picnic, but to really remember them, it should be a spiritual commemoration expressed in prayer and almsgiving.